thanks ISPA for having us along today. My name is Mark Downey and I'm Head of Sales at EPS Global, covering Northern Europe and Africa. I'm joined today by Bartendu, who's Head of Telecom Infra Project EMEA and Meta Facebook. The topic of today's talk is driving sustainable network innovation with open telecom technology. So before that, just a little piece of where EPS Global fits into that picture, and then we'll can move over and ask Bartendu some questions. We've been ISPA's open disaggregated partner now for 2 years. We're a company set up in 1999 with 28 global locations around the world, covering Asia, Europe or EMEA and the Americas. We specialize in solutions that are based on open standards, so bare metal hardware and open software. So we work with ISPs all around the world, and some of them in the UK as well, kind of promoting those open standards into them and helping them deliver on their networks. We get involved. Open is great, but at the end you want someone to kind of pull it all together. So we get involved in initializing and provisioning switches and setting them up and getting them out to our customers. So that's where we fit into the picture. So we've also been working with the Telecom Infra Project, which is what Bartendu is part of, both directly with customers in deploying those solutions out there, and also in helping as a fulfillment partner to get the solutions to their customers as well. So delighted to have Bartendu here with me today. A wealth of knowledge, I have no doubt, and hopefully interesting for you guys. So Bartendu, we've got a room full of people here, and ISPs and service providers who probably have a varying degree of knowledge around TIP, what you do. So maybe you could give them a bit of information on what you do, why they should be interested, and within that maybe we can talk a little bit about how TIP works and how you could get involved in that.
Excellent, thanks Mark. First of all, thanks for having me here. And I know I'm sitting in the middle of you guys in the lunch, so we'll try to be as quick as possible. I will skip this. Yes. So, my name is Bartendu. I work for Meta Connectivity. My role is to develop partner relationships in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Connectivity is very important for Meta, and that's why we are part of TIP. For those who don't know what is TIP, TIP stands for Telecom Infra Project. It started in 2016 with 20 companies, mostly MNOs, coming together. And now in past 5 years, it has grown to like 500 plus companies across the globe, really a global initiative. By definition, it's like a community approach where organizations and companies have come together to develop and deploy open disaggregated technologies. Technologies which are based on standards and which will fulfill the needs of today and tomorrow. The line at the bottom of the slide is very, very intentional. Together, we build, test, and deploy. The most important word in this sentence is together. We are very much focused on building collaboration, global synergies, testing things together, and then sharing the results with the community. So the motto is test once, deploy many times. So with this philosophy, I'll give you like, why does TIP exist? I know most of you are aware about this context. On the left-hand side, you can see single vendor solution, the hardware, software coming from one vendor with the proprietary interfaces. And it is fully integrated, having some benefits, but it's like a vendor lock-in. On the other side, the philosophy which we are proposing and the philosophy which we are kind of working towards is more open and disaggregated networks, multi-vendor, against vendor lock-in. So you can buy hardware from vendor A, software from vendor B, open interfaces, both between the hardware and software and towards the network management system, to give like the power of negotiation back in the hands of buyers, not in the hands of big OEMs who define roadmaps and they drive their own philosophy. So this is the reason we exist. I know there are a couple of slides here, but I'll really go quick to give a glimpse of what all we do. Right from access till core, we have multiple interventions. In the access side, we are invested in Open RAN, in Open Wi-Fi. Now from last year, we have started working on fixed networks, Open OLTs and other stuff. Then when it comes to backbone, we are having interventions on microwave, optical transport, packet transport. And we also have initiatives around core, mobile core. So it covers like pretty much end-to-end telecom networks. And last slide in this question, Mark, I know this is a little bit longer, but the way we work is like a very simple 4-step process. We start working with the service providers, mostly MNOs so far, on an idea. And once we have this idea, we sit together to collect the requirements, put that into a systematic, definition phase, maybe a RFI or stuff. And then once the OEMs who respond to that RFI, we invest a lot of time and energy in trialing those technologies in lab and in field. And then we kind of pushing it towards a commercial deployment. So this is the point of arrival. We are not a standard building body. We are more interested in, when rubber hits the road, making these open technologies commercially deployable. So we work very closely with ONF, Open RAN, ORAN Alliance, OCP, and others to take their inputs of standards and work closely to get the things rolling on ground. And for ISPs, if you look at the first 2 steps, we are trying to offload a lot of work which you do one-to-one with the OEMs. We do it together in a community approach, and then we leave the last 2 for you to kind of decide. So this is like Telecom Infra Project in a nutshell.
Okay.
Mark, long answer for a short question.
No, good answer. Oh, very interesting. So it'd be good to look at some of the projects within TIP. But just before that, I just want to give a quick quote from one of your colleagues, which kind of puts our talk into context a little bit. Johan Hortus, he's the head of Transport Network Architecture and Strategy at the Telia company, and he's also co-chair of the TIP OOPT project group. He said, we're fully committed to the development of a healthy transport ecosystem that can speed up innovation and foster a healthier supply chain. The OOPT community is composed of a great set of service and technology providers, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them to enable transport networks of the future. A couple of things within that. I think a healthier supply chain, I think everyone in the room would agree that any improvement to supply chains at the moment would be most welcome. But around that idea of innovation, we could talk a little bit about the backhaul project. I think there's a few different technologies that overlap within that. I think you showed it on your technology map there earlier on, but maybe we could look particularly at the Open Optical Packet Transport Group, the OOPT, and maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how it's progressing.
Yeah. So Mark, before I start, I must tell, out of all the interventions which TIP is having, I love this stuff the most, Open Optical Packet Transport. The reason is I had worked in IP networks in my past career, so I understand it more. Second is, I believe all the fancy services which we're talking about today, 5G and, immersive experiences, AR, VR, all this is dependent on a very strong, robust transport network underneath. I know the buzzwords are Open RAN or Metaverse and so on and so forth, but the fundamental of success of these technologies are transport networks. In TIP, we have this project group called Open Optical Packet Transport. In short, it's called OOPT, which is like an umbrella project group having multiple subgroups underneath. These boxes on the slide, I don't know, it's a busy slide, but if you can see the blue box calling DCSG, disaggregate cell site gateways, one subgroup, which talks about a pizza box of one RU router and a L2 switch. Then we have interventions around disaggregated open routers, which is like aggregation layer. We have core routers, backbone routers on the packet side. On the optical side, we have technology like optical transponder, Cassini, like low capacity boxes, and then Phoenix, which is like 800 gig optical transponder, and many other project groups, few focused on SDN for transport, others on open source networking operating system, and so on and so forth. The most successful intervention in OOPT has been DCSG, and I know Mark will acknowledge that because he has been partner in crime to kind of make that success, because this is the intervention which has made the most commercial success globally, and a lot of partners around the globe started their journey of disaggregation from DCSG, and now they have reached to Open RAN and Open Wi-Fi and other sites. So yeah, this is I can offer you on this.
Okay, perfect. I mean, obviously within the technology map you showed earlier, there's lots of use cases. So what would be interesting is how is that transferred into adoption amongst some of the bigger telcos globally?
Yeah. So I have a slide which talks about the typical trials and deployments. This is a busy slide, you can see like logos all over the place. The team which manages these slides and the website is like under stress because every week we come back with one more partner has done a trial or they're deploying this technology. The numbers are like 50 plus trials and commercial deployments completed till date, and then the same number is going on in progress. Most of them are centered around DCSG and Cassini. They are in like 40 countries with like 50 plus operators, pretty spread across the globe.
Nothing in the UK at all?
Not through TIP. There are few which is in UK, but we are not directly engaging with them. I'll come back to that. So, but you can see like most of these are with large scale MNOs, Telefonicas and Vodafones and MTNs of the world. And we started this journey with large scale MNOs, but now my presence in this forum kind of explains our focus is shifting towards the ISP community and the tier 2, tier 3 MNOs, because this was very intentional by design. We thought we start with this large scale MNOs to have scale benefit. So with little intervention, we can get some scale, we can get these OEMs excited, the demand signal will be high. But once the tech will get mature, we'll come to the real players who, like you guys, which are large in number. But yeah, so this is on trials. The feedback which I got from partners after they deployed this technology, although TIP as a team never get into the commercial side of the business. Once the trials are done, results are shared, we just move out of the room and we leave sellers and buyers to decide on what technology they want to buy at what prices. But the reflection we got is by deploying open technologies at scale, easily 25 to 30% savings on OPEX and almost the same number on CAPEX based on what kind of skill set partners have in-house and what is the scale and which part of the world they are operating in. But 30% is a number which is like very uniformly discussed as a saving so far. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so maybe moving a bit away from the technology roadmap and the number, we could dig into some of the real world adoptions and deployments. I guess it'd be good for me to give my perspective on this as a partner working with you. As part of my day today, we work with companies on this. So some examples would be, we're working with New Bras Gateway in Iraq at the moment, and we've deployed a proof of concept with the cell site gateways, and that's moved into a pilot project which they're setting up for their 5G. We're also trying to work with them on a coherent backbone with the Cassini box that you mentioned earlier on. So they're live deployments that we have out there in the field at the moment. We've also a pretty good story to tell in Africa, and there's lots of greenfield deployments out there where they're looking for innovative, economical ways of getting their networks deployed. I mean, there's a need to bring connectivity to rural communities out there that I think is on a scale that we probably don't understand from the distances in Europe and how they do that. We've worked with virtual technology solutions in Burkina Faso, and also working with Afrobone in Mali. So that's kind of where we sit in that space. I know, Tip, you've had successful projects. I think you mentioned some of them were on the map there with MTN, who are like the 7th largest telco in the world, I believe, and Africell and Comsol in that region. And we see these real world deployments as both us dealing directly, but also as your fulfillment partner in getting some proof of concept or parts into far-flung parts of the world, which can be difficult sometimes. And we've also been, going back to the question I think was asked here, we've been working in the UK for a number of years. We worked with Vodafone and BT, but now we're starting to work more and more with altnets, selling them in open network solutions into the likes of Netomi as one example, and U-Fiber out there in the world. So maybe you could give us a few detailed examples of particular customers you're working with, that are not your customers, as you said,
yes.
But that you're working with and what you're doing there.
Yeah. So this is a great question, because this is a question which been asked because what are the real deployments and what are the references we have? So as I said in my last answer, we typically started with large scale MNOs for the obvious reasons. But now from last 1.5 years, we shifted our focus when the technology got mature to the large scale ISPs and the smaller ISPs across the globe. So right now we are engaging like 40 plus ISPs globally, in which 15 of them are like really active. Some of them has kind of started deploying commercially these technologies, and some are kind of in the phase of deployment. But I must tell you, like, truth be told, when we shifted our focus from MNOs, these large scale MNOs, to the ISPs, and I myself was kind of talking to some of them, and they had a very okayish perception about these white boxes. They had a lot of questions around post-sale support, procurement. How do we buy hardware from A, software from B? How do we integrate with the NMS? Integration challenges around culture. Most of their skill set and their teams were focused on Cisco's and Juniper's and Nokia's of the world. So it took some time for us to build that value proposition and break that cynicism in their eyes. Like, they were looking, why the hell TIP and what is this technology? Either they were confused with both or either of them. But I must say, like, I was amazed the way they kind of made the decisions. Because I had experience with MNOs, they were slow. But ISPs were very agile, fast decision makers, and excellent executors. Although their challenges were different, like their commercial priorities, their deployment architecture, models, operational challenges are different, working capital and all. But once we made the case, I'll give you an example of many such ISPs, right from Spectra in India to Neuros in Iraq, then Burkina Faso, couple of intervention in Africa, few in Europe. There are partners who are fixed and mobile both, Turkish Telecom, Turkcell. They're massively invested. I will be given like Vodafone, Telefonica, DT, Orange. They all are like going to deploy large scale networks with TCSG. In Canada, Ugrid. In Brazil, which is full of ISPs, we have a couple of very interesting use cases. Mundo Pacifico in Chile. Sky, not the Sky of UK. Sky is a subsidiary of DirecTV in Brazil. They have DCSG deployed, and few more. Like, I forgot the names, but it is like all over the place. If I pick one example, I'll take Neuros, for example. Our expectation was not very high because we thought this is like we are talking to them first time. They are in Iraq. We did not know the competence of the team and so on and so forth. It took 2 weeks for us to make them understand the value proposition, but once they are onboarded, they moved like this quick. We worked together on requirement. We supplied them some test cases, which we have built up. They added like 10-15% test cases on top. You guys helped us get the boxes shipped to the country in like 3 weeks or 4. And if I think about the point of start, the engagement, and the point when they had the first box running commercial traffic was 6 months. And everyone in our team was like amazed to see this pace of acceptance and execution. And the help which we have done is curating the requirements and giving them the results which we have done testing across the globe. So they only did the delta testings. They wanted to test boxes into a different temperature. They said we may have outages of power and boxes may be sitting at 45-degree temperature. So we will test the protocols on that and the field trial with the performance numbers. Everything went well. Last 6 months they are deploying boxes. I'm not hearing anything from them. I'm assuming everything is fine. So these are like the deployment experiences. I can keep talking about it, but I know we have limited time.
Yeah.
Can we open up any questions? I've got one question.
Yeah.
Facebook sits behind Telegraph Technology Wireless, which we've tried in our business. Where does that sit in this ecosystem?
So the way kind of Meta or Facebook deals with connectivity is like 2 buckets. One bucket is through TIP, where we are kind of participating as a member and we are kind of helping the ecosystem. Other intervention is Meta connectivity build products internally. And the Telegraph is part of that bucket, developed by Meta and it's like millimeter wave technology for the densification of cities, and it's like a virtual fiber. So that's how I explain this. I just want to mention one more thing before we close. Like, I know we are 2 minutes over. There are like interventions apart from OOPT which we have started, mostly focused around ISPs and fixed networks. There's an initiative called Open BNG, started last year, progressing very well, and then Open OLT. And there's a new project group coming up which will talk about the Wi-Fi and the metaverse experience in home. The last speakers were giving numbers and they were phenomenally good. So I'll encourage you guys to visit the website and keep me posted if you have any questions. We are very much interested to engage.
Thank you both. A proper fireside chat as well.